All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our public meeting and hearing tonight. Looks like we got about 15 people logged on right now, and I'm sure we got a few more logging in soon here. My name is Jim Ostrowski, and I work in EGLE's Environmental Support Division. And I'm glad to have you here tonight for our hearing on the National Park Service Sleet and Bear Dunes National Lakeshore. We'll be learning a little bit more about it in just a moment. It's in Glen Arbor Township in Leelanau County. So the way our meeting and hearing is going to work tonight is we're going to start out with some introductions. Then we're going to do a short information session where Robin Schmidt from EGLE is going to explain a little bit about the project, the application that came in, describe it. And then we're going to open it up for a Q&A session for questions. So if you have a question, we'll let you ask those questions, and it's relatively informal, so we can do that back and forth. We got the applicants, I believe, here on the line as well. If they need to be unmuted to answer questions, we can do that as well. So we will do that at that time. Once we get done with the Q&A, probably about 6:30 or so, we will move into the official comment portion of the meeting. So during the official comment portion, that's when you can make your official comment for the record. Up till that point, it's just informal Q&A, informational, that type of stuff. Once we go to the hearing, Robin's going to read off the public hearing statement, and then we'll start taking comments for the record. And at that point, we'll just be listening to your comments. After that, we'll close the hearing and provide you some information about where to go for more information on this application. I just want to remind you that all the lines are muted. We do have an opportunity to ask questions by submitting questions using the question box on your Zoom toolbar. We are also recording this public meeting like we do with all our public meetings, and you'll be able to find it up on our YouTube channel probably in the next day or so. Okay, with that, I want to introduce our hearings officer, and Robin and Joe from our district office. So if you guys want to pop on and introduce yourselves, please. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'll start, I guess. Welcome, everybody. I'm Joe Haas. I'm the district supervisor for Cadillac and Gaylord field offices with EGLE Water Resources Division. I supervise field staff covering the 22 counties in the northern lower peninsula regarding water resources regulatory programs, including the one that is relevant here, Wetlands Protection Part 303. We also oversee inland lakes and streams protection, and specifically Great Lakes submerged lands protection Part 325, as well as sand dune protection, floodplain protection, and some others. But just want to thank you for taking the time to be actively involved in this hearing. Public involvement is a priority for EGLE, and we appreciate your participation. And just again, thanks for taking the time. Go ahead, Robin.
Good evening. My name is Robin Schmidt. I'm the district representative covering Leelanau County. So I'm assigned to process this application that we're here to talk about tonight. And thank you for being here.
All right. Thanks, Joe and Robin. They'll be hanging out with me tonight, listening to your comments and questions. Robin, I just gave you control. So if you want to, you can go ahead and explain what we're here for to discuss tonight, project.
All right. Thank you. We'll go through a few slides. So the National Park Service at Sleep and Bear Dunes National Lakeshore is applied to permanently impact 0.22 acre of wetland and have temporary impacts to 0.08 acre to create turn lanes into the Dune Climb road, which is called Hunter Road off of M109. So this may be small for you to see. I apologize for that, but it's located on the west end of Little Glen Lake at the Dune Climb. This is a little blow up of the location. And this is one project plan that was submitted, that it was shared with the public notice. It's also available via MyEnviro online. There are several plans that you can look at that are detailed for the impacts that are proposed. They're not the same across the project, right? Because the lanes widen and narrow as needed for the proposal. So one of the questions that was asked prior to the hearing was what the impact width was for the projects on the private residence side of the road, and it does vary. The applicant was able to provide some information on that it varies from less than a foot of change, right? So they would increase the impact for the road, less than a foot in some locations, and in other locations, it's closer to 6 feet of impact. And in those locations where there are impacts to private driveways, they will reconstruct the driveways in kind. Mailboxes will be reset, and no trees will be removed except as necessary for the pavement widening. And there may also be trimming of trees as needed for construction access. So I guess I would encourage you to take a look at the plans. The cross-section plans start on page 57 of 77 of the public notice. There are also site location maps that have limit of impacts or construction area impacts that you can take a look at to help advise you on where those impacts will be located that you may be curious about. So that's my introduction, Jim. I can turn it back over to you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Robin. I'm gonna take control back here. All right. Yeah, so that's the project. And if you look in your chat, you'll be able to find Robin dropped in the link to My Waters, where if you click that link, that's where you can make official comments if you want to. Also, there's a tab in there, I believe you can click on to find documents associated with this project, right? And they'll be able to access this. Okay, so we're going to open up for questions that anybody here might have about the project for a little bit. And I know we have the applicant as well on the line, Tom Ulrich and Nicole Brespenick. I'm going to unmute both of your lines here. So if you do want to answer questions, you can, but I'll direct questions if they come in directly to Robin first. And Robin, if you want the applicant to answer them, just let me know. So if you have a question, you can either submit it in the Zoom toolbar, click on the Q&A box. You can click the raise hand icon if you want to, and I'll unmute you so you can ask your question. I don't think we have anybody on the phone, but if we did, you could hit #2 and answer it that way. So it looks like we got someone with their hand up here, Robin, Kim. So Kim, I just unmuted your line and you can ask your question.
Hi, thanks. So I'm one of the people on the private residence side, right in front of the Dune Drive. And so, and I'll hold off public comments for the public comment section. This is just my question, I guess. Obviously the plans are dense and there's a lot of information there, so it was hard to piece through, but so hoping maybe someone can give clarification just in terms of like water runoff, drainage, especially if we're impacting some of those wetlands, we're moving, you know, private residence driveways back, you know, just in terms of living there with the neighbors living there, we have a lot of flooding as it is in that area. So I would be interested in kind of hearing what the plans are. It was hard to tell from the documents what the plans are to address kind of drainage issues and so that we don't end up having just a lot more flooding in the area as a result of this project.
Yeah, that would be a great question if the engineer wants to tackle that, or definitely the pavement's getting sloped, right? The new lanes are getting sloped. There was cross sections that show that.
Yeah, so if Tom or Nicole want to answer that question, either you want to address that, you should be able to unmute yourself.
This is Tom, if you can hear me.
Yeah, and Tom, could you please introduce yourself, say your name and where you're from?
Yeah, I'm Tom Ulrich. I'm the Deputy Superintendent for Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore. And I'm only speaking to defer to Nicole because that is definitely an engineering question that I don't have expertise in.
Okay, so I know Nicole's here. So Nicole, you can unmute your line and introduce yourself. And looks like
so I apologize. As far as the water calculations, we answered a letter. I have the letter up, Robin. I don't know who else is on. I'm not an engineer. So, yeah, engineer, I'm an environmental person. So, is Baines on the line, or Robin, do you want to read the response was that we submitted?
Yes, I did get those responses from you. I appreciate that. If I can pull them up in a timely fashion here and find the answer. Kim, I can also follow up with you separately to let you know. You know, it's a road project, so that additional water is going to have to go in the roadside ditches, right? So if there's a concern with additional water being created by the hardening, you know, that's something that they're going to have to take a look at. But see here.
Okay, so Robin's gonna take a look at that.
And while Robin's looking at that, I can at least let you know, I don't know if Jay Batinder or Greg Batt are on the line, the engineers that helped design. But that is an issue we at least discussed. The additional area of impervious surface is not very significant in terms of directing more flow off of the existing roadway than currently does. But as for, you know, how exactly they have drainage sloped or addressing it with ditches, I would have to defer to one of the engineers.
All right, if either of the engineers are on and want to raise your hand, I can unmute you. Oh, there's Jay. So Jay, I'm gonna unmute your line so you can talk.
Yes, this is Jay Baines. I'm a project manager with the Federal Highway Administration. We did send our responses to the questions. There will be some changes in the pavement cross slope, so more pavement runoff will drain to the east side of the road than other current conditions. The result is that the pavement runoff to the properties on the east side of the road will increase by 3.23 CFS. This increase of 3.23 CFS is relatively very small in comparison to the runoff from the surrounding area, and no specific measures will be used to manage the additional flow. So there is no flooding issues with this proposed project.
Okay, thanks, Jay. For our listeners on there, you said 2 to 3 feet CFS. Could you please define that?
Cubic feet per second. So
Yep.
that would be the
Per
Thank you.
second.
Yes, thanks. Okay. More questions. Robin, did you find
Yeah,
anything?
I just wanted to say the responses back from the National Park Service will be uploaded into my Enviro so that people can view them. And Jay's response is in the document as well. So
Okay.
I will do
Thank
that
you.
tomorrow.
All right, thank you. And again, you can access those electronic documents on the link that's in the chat right now. Are they posted now or will they be posted later?
They're going to be posted tomorrow. Yes.
Okay.
When I can get them on there,
Okay.
I'll try to do it tonight, but tomorrow for sure.
Okay, thanks. All right, so Beth has a question. Beth, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, I'm one of the residents, like Kim, that will be impacted by this change. And I guess I'd like to back up and actually ask what determined the need to have this? I mean, in all the years that I've lived there, over 30 years, I can only recall like one time this last summer where there was a traffic backup to get into the park. And I think there were some suggestions as to things that could be done within the parking lot to mitigate any traffic jams on M109. So were there statistics that were gathered? Just kind of curious on why this and how this came about to begin with.
Just muted myself. Okay, Robin has something you want to address, or would you like me to have Tom answer that question.
Right, definitely it's was part of their responses to the alternatives that were suggested as part of a public comment. A number of alternatives were identified, a park and walk, having the cars go further into the Dune Climb area. And that was part of the responses that are in the letter. So I'll try to see if I can find the one. There's a general one here. So they're looking at some anticipated traffic in the park.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask if Tom wants to answer that at all, or if you want to add any
Yeah.
more of that, Tom.
Yeah, I'm happy to address that. And we've actually observed actually many times in the last 5 years for sure, and more often certainly than once a summer, even prior to that, where the lines, especially the northbound left-hand turn, was backing up traffic along M109 there. And this is definitely intended to provide people an easier way to get into the Dune Climb. And in addition, people would occasionally, depending on how far back that queue formed, would try to sneak by on the right-hand side, causing a safety issue as well. So Kim, you've been fortunate if you've only had to run into that at your place there once, because it actually happens fairly often, to the point that we have to send our law enforcement rangers away from other duties to go down there and effect traffic control to make sure that people are getting in safely and no one is turning in front of someone else. All the suggested alternatives to it were actually quite thoughtful, and some of those measures have been implemented in other national parks across the country. And we evaluated each of those, but unfortunately, all of them require either some kind of additional construction that's outside the scope of this project and involves parkland rather than just the road right of way. Certainly, we don't have funding for that. In addition, all of those suggestions, or at least some of them, don't provide as good a service to the visitor, because we like to be able to provide a personal service to the visitor as much as we can at the Dune Climb entry kiosk. People get oriented. It's a point where people can get safety briefings, can report issues on the Dune Trail, which is one of our most frequent search and rescue locations. So the unmanned suggestion is one that we certainly don't want to implement. The automated gate digital entry issue, we don't have the technology for that yet. That may be coming at some point, but certainly not anytime in the foreseeable future. And we wanted to be able to address this ongoing safety and access issue in a meaningful way. So while I appreciated the thought given to those, the variety of alternatives, they're either cost prohibitive, cause actually more environmental impact, don't provide the service to our visitors that we need, are operationally more expensive. So on a recurring basis, they're not sustainable for the park to manage it into the future. For example, the second kiosk, we're barely able to staff the first when we would prefer to. I appreciated those analysis, very thoughtful, but none of them were something that we could feasibly implement.
Okay, thank you. We did have a question come in through the question box here. It's going back to the stormwater question, the runoff. This person's asking, can you explain beyond the 3.23 CFS in layman's terms how much additional water will be sent on to the east properties? So, I mean, I think Jay originally tried to answer that. Can you, I guess, explain how much 3.23 cubic feet per second is, or like an estimation, just for attendees purposes? Or if anybody wants to take a stab at that, go right ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
3.23 CFS is equal to 1,450 gallons per minute.
Okay. So I don't know if that helps.
Jeff,
or
Jeff,
not.
can you explain in more details? Jeff Johnson is our highway design manager.
Jeff Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah, hold on a second. Oh, there he is. Jeff, you can go ahead and unmute, and if you want to add some more detail, you can.
I can't add too much more detail than just that volume, but what I can say is that that's the first 5 minutes. That represents the first 5 minutes is just usually the most intense portion. And after that, it will tail off. So without doing a much more thorough analysis, we can't really quantify that any better. What I will say is that regarding the drainage, it's, as we've said before, it's a pretty small amount of water compared to all the runoff that's going there. And we're just maintaining existing drainage patterns. So where it's going now is where it will be going in the future.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. And Jeff, you're from where? Can you clarify?
I'm also from Eastern Federal Lands. I'm in highway design.
Okay, thank
So I
you.
work with Jay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so looking to see if there's more questions. Anybody else have a question before moving to the hearing? Better raise your hand or type it in. Oh, got a couple more questions popping out here. Eleanor's got a question. Go ahead. Should be able to unmute your line. Eleanor, if you're there, you can just click the unmute button on your microphone and you should be able to unmute your line. There you go. Go ahead. I'm showing you as unmuted, but I'm not hearing you if you're talking. So if you've got something on your end that's muted, you might want to click that off. All right, sorry, Eleanor, we can't seem to hear you, but if you'd like to type your question into the Q&A box on your Zoom toolbar, we'll be sure to get back to you that way. Okay, looks like Elizabeth's got a question. Elizabeth, you can go ahead and unmute your line and ask your question.
Hi, I'm Beth Daniel. I also live on the east side of M109, just north of the Dune Climb entrance. There are a group of us that have wetlands in front of our homes that we have to drive, our driveways go through them. And I think that all of our concerns is that if we get any extra water, because there are times when our driveways get water in them too. I think that before when we talked about that it was mistaken that the road was flooding. I've never known M109 to flood, but definitely our driveways will flood. So I think I speak for all of us in our little section that our big worry is that, you know, if we get a big rainfall or something like that, that our driveways are really going to flood. And that's going to make it hard for us to get into our driveways. But not only that, it also potentially could lower our home values. So I think that needs to be addressed a little bit more before this project moves on.
Yeah, Beth, that's kind of more of a comment than a question. It's something that we definitely, if you have concerns about that as a comment, to make sure you state that during our comment portion just a little bit here. But did you have like a question about it, or I guess?
Well, I guess if I had a question, it would be, have any studies been done on the impact of our properties, our actual properties, or have you only looked at the west side of the road where you're going to put in these lanes?
Okay, Robin, has anything been submitted or any studies been done regarding the properties and runoff and drainage?
Not that I'm aware of. with the application materials. I don't know if Tom or if one of the engineers want to speak to that, but I think they've already addressed the runoff calculations they did, and that they'd be using the existing ditches and runoff areas.
Okay. Jeff or Jay, feel free to chime in. You can unmute your line.
Yeah, hi,
Yes.
this is Jeff. And oh, sorry. You want to go ahead, Jay?
No, go ahead. Sir.
All right. No, all I was going to say was what I was going to do was confirm that no, we haven't done any evaluation of property values or impacts to property values. The biggest study has really been about the amount of impact on wetlands.
Okay, thank you. Question came into the question box here. Hold on a second. Are there any options to direct the water to the west instead? So did anybody look at redirecting the water to the west side?
Hi, this is Jeff again. No, we didn't look at shifting water to the west because that's not really where it wants to go. It would be challenging from an engineering standpoint to get it over to the west, and we'd have probably a lot more wetland impacts doing it that way too, because it wants to drain over to the lake.
Okay, thanks. Time for one more question. Looks like Beth has got a question. Beth, you can go ahead and unmute your line and ask your question.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback on Beth Daniels' comments with another question about what the plan would be to handle that additional water. So when you think about the driveways going down to the lake, I mean, the water gets trapped because there is no flow. And I think the natural flow, because it would be downhill, would be to the mill pond. So is there a plan to potentially put like drain pipes underneath the driveways to allow for the water to flow that direction, which would be the natural way if our driveways weren't there?
I don't believe that's part of this project. I guess I'm curious that there are no cross culverts underneath the driveways in that wetland section to equalize the water. Do you have a culvert underneath your driveway?
No.
Oh, that's surprising. Yeah, I guess, so it is a state regulated wetland where your driveways go through in that section. And we would be concerned about draining water, right, surface water from that wetland. I understand it's a concern from your comments today, and it's something we can take a look at, the additional water, but like the engineers have said, to tip that road to keep all the water from not going that direction would be an interesting design. And I just don't know if it's achievable. I guess if there's concerns with that, I think it's a bigger issue to look at how that water discharges out of the wetland to the mill pond or north to the stream and then to Little Glen Lake. Like I said, that's something I haven't ever looked at closely.
Thanks, Robin.
Well, and just to add to that, I mean, even our crawl spaces get flooded when there's a lot of rain and higher water than normal, which causes us a lot of extra expense. So, you know, I heard that there's additional expense to the park for implementing some of the solutions, but what about the considerations for the additional expense to the residents?
All right, thanks, Beth. And I think that's something, you know, if you want to add in your comments when we get to that in just a minute, that's fair to do as well, if you'd like to. Okay, at this point, what we would like to do is move into the official comments, because it looks like it's answered most of the questions that have come in. So what we're going to do now is thank our team here who joined us from the Park Service, from their engineering firm, to answer questions. Thank you all for helping with that. and we'll move into the comment period. So I'm going to have Robin come on and go ahead and read your comment or the official statement to get it started. Hearing statement. Thanks.
Great. Good evening. My name is Robin Schmidt, and I am the district representative in the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE. I will be serving as the hearings officer for the public hearing on EGLE submission number HPN-QBZA-XTKH8. With me tonight is Joseph Haas, Supervisor, Cadillac and Gaylord Districts. To describe how this is going to work tonight, I will begin with some background information about why we are here tonight. I will then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. It will then be time for you to provide your comments, and we will spend the majority of the time tonight listening to those comments. At the end of the hearing, I will read a closing statement. By way of background information, the Water Resources Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling in a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical sand dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing those responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, Public Act 451, as amended. We are here tonight because Scott Tucker of the National Park Service has proposed the following. To construct right and left turn lanes from M109 to Hunter Road, also known as Dune Climb Access Road, impacting wetland contiguous to Little Glen Lake. The project proposes to temporarily impact 0.08 acre of wetland, excavate approximately 5 cubic yards of material from 729 square feet of wetland, and place approximately 1,362 cubic yards of fill in 9,473 square feet of wetland, including 442 feet of retaining wall. The project proposes to impact approximately 0.22 acre of wetland. Restoration of the temporarily impacted wetland is proposed. No mitigation is proposed. The project is located in Township 29 North, Range 14 West, Section 29, Glen Arbor Township, Leelanau County, Michigan, in accordance with the application plans. In order for a permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 303 Wetlands Protection of Act 451. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on the wetlands. When reviewing the application for permit under provisions of Part 303 Wetlands Protection of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following indications as required by Section 303.11 of Part 303. A permit for an activity listed in Section 303.04 shall not be approved unless the department determines that the issuance of a permit is in the public interest, that the permit is necessary to realize the benefits derived from the activity, and that the activity is otherwise lawful. 1, a permit shall not be issued unless it is shown that an unacceptable disruption will not result to the aquatic resources. 2, a permit shall not be issued unless the applicant also shows either of the following. A, the proposed activity is primarily dependent upon being located in the wetland, and B, a feasible and prudent alternative does not exist. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in the project an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use when making a decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We will be happy to make a note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is by law not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition to the project. In just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. But before I do so, I need to mention that notice of this hearing was published in the Leelanau Enterprise, April 20th, 2023 edition. As we discussed at the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. We will call on those who have indicated in their registration that they would like to speak. After that, we will call on those that have raised their hand in the Zoom toolbar that they would like to make a comment if they haven't already been called upon. As a reminder, if you are participating in this hearing via telephone only, follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to EGLE via the MyEnviro portal, via email, or via US mail. When all the comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association you may represent. Each person will be given 4 minutes to make their comments. We will indicate to you when you have a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the time allotted. If need be, we will indicate when your time has ended. I ask that we be courteous and respectful to one another tonight. Please also recognize that EGLE staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and listen to those comments. This hearing is being recorded, and your comments will be part of the information EGLE will consider in making its decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. The public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing, ending on May 12th, 2023. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in EGLE's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, EGLE will make a decision to either issue a permit for the project as proposed, or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find out the decision is by checking the EGLE MyEnviro portal website and searching for the application number HPN-QBZA-XTKH8. Thank you for your attention. We will begin calling the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
All right, thanks, Robin. Like Robin said, we will now start taking official comment, and when we call you up, you'll have 4 minutes to make that comment. Please stay within that 4-minute time range. I'll give you a warning at the 1 minute mark, just so you know when to start wrapping up. When people registered, you had an opportunity to let us know ahead of time if you wanted to make a comment, and I got 2 people on my list that said they did. So we're going to call up those 2 people first to make their comments, and after that, you can raise your hand and you can make your comment if you'd like to. So the first 2 people on my list are Sherry Stagg and Adrian Peterson. And so I'm going to have Sherry, I'm going to mute your line, and you can unmute your line and start your comment. Remember to state your name and any organization you might be with, and we'll be here to listen. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Cherry Steggy. We are on the west side of M109. I'm sorry, we're on the east side of M109, but more toward the south of the area. And my question, which I know you addressed a little bit at the beginning, had to do with how far from the center line this project will go into our properties. My sound wasn't working at that time, so I didn't hear what you had said. So I would appreciate knowing if there was a number of feet. And I'm just concerned about what kind of condition that area will be in after the project is finished. And I'd like to know how far into our properties that would go. So I just wanted to express my concern, so that's not an actual question. Can you tell me that number of feet?
Yeah, Sherry. So the way the comment part works is that we don't respond to questions. So if you have a question, I have Robin perhaps put your email into the chat so you can email her later on. Or
Okay,
you
that
can
would be
send me an
great.
email. Yeah, sure. Is that all
right.
your comment?
Well, I guess my comment is that I hope that, I guess it's MDOT will consider whatever beautification they can do when the project is finished. I think that's all I have to say right now.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Thank you for your comment tonight. All right, so coming up next, next person is Adrian Peterson. Adrian, you can come up and unmute your line. And if you would please repeat your name and any association you may be with.
Yep, I'm Adrian Peterson with Peterson and Vandenberg Environmental. I was contacted by the neighbors that live across the street to the east to review the permit application, the public notice. And some of the things that I noticed have been already sent in via a letter earlier. But one of the big things is that the alternatives for this project seem to be very limited. I know, sounds like they've already are addressing that, but there are significant upland areas that appear to be possible to use those instead of impacting the wetland. This wetland is considered a rare wetland. So the impacts to it should be evaluated carefully. It also is very diverse. It potentially has any number of threatened and endangered species in there. There's been no surveys that have been conducted to specifically look for those. The temporary wetland impact will open it up to potential for invasive species to come in. Equipment often carries seeds from other sources that will impact the wetland. The neighbors are also very concerned with the additional water that will be placed on their properties. Seems like some additional studies need to be done to prove that the impact will be very minimal, because they don't have room for additional water. So we need to make sure that there's no way to address it prior to being released on their property. I know it's probably more difficult with the road project, but there may be options to address some of the water prior to release onto the neighbors' properties. Let's see what else. And then the last is that there's no mitigation proposed. I know in transportation projects, sometimes they are not required to do mitigation. But in this case, it seems like mitigation should be conducted since they're impacting a rare wetland. And those are my comments.
All right, thanks for commenting tonight. Okay, so those are the people who said they wanted to comment when they registered. At this point, I will now open it up to anyone else who would like to make an official comment for this application. You can just raise your hand and I will call on your name and unmute you so you can make your comment. Okay, so it looks like Kim has raised her hand. Kim, you can go ahead and unmute your line and start your comment. Again, please repeat your name.
Kim Dudek, one of the residents. I think I just want to follow Adrian and put myself on the record officially of kind of restating the same comment she just made. And I haven't seen anything in terms of the responses on the alternatives that we proposed in the comment letter. I heard, I think it was Tom or somebody talk a little bit about those. So I guess what I'd like to say is I'd really just want to make sure that those alternatives were really considered. They were alternatives, not supplements, not to do the road project plus those things. So the idea would be those would replace the project as it's presented. And I understand the idea of wanting to have people around and stuff, but we're also talking about affecting people's properties and water runoff, and we're already surrounded by wetlands and a lake. So just restating the same comments that Adrian just put out there. And so I just want to put that on the record for myself as well.
Okay, thanks for your comment tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else like to make a comment? Just raise your hand and you can do so. Doesn't look like we have anybody on the phone, so. Just give it a few seconds. Okay, we do have another person with their hand up, Elizabeth. You can go ahead and make your comment, unmute yourself and go ahead and make your comment. Please repeat your name.
Yes, Elizabeth Daniel, and I live on the east side, just north of the Dune Climb entrance. And I'm going to say the same thing as Adrian and Kim. We already have standing water on both sides of the driveway, and any excess water is going to create all kinds of problems on our property. So I just feel like that should be studied before any kind of project like this continues.
Okay, that's your comment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for commenting tonight. Another person that wants to comment, Beth, you can go ahead and repeat your name and you can start your comment.
Beth Wieringa, and also wanting to go on record for expressing my concern as a resident on the east side of the road. The water retention for the years that I have lived there, I've been always very careful and have understood your regulations for respecting the wetlands and not being able to impact any of those wetlands. So I want to go on record to say I disagree with this proposal because of that impact. And yeah, just wanted to get it on the record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment tonight. Do we have anyone else here tonight that would like to make a comment? Okay, I always leave it open for a little while. That's kind of awkward, but I want to make sure if somebody's got a comment, they have a chance to raise their hand. And it doesn't look like it. So with that, and just to let you know, earlier we had a question that came in, and Robin did put her email address in the chat. So if you do want to email Robin, you can do that. Okay, so Robin, I guess at this point what we'll do is have you read the closing statement for the hearing so we can move on to the next stage, which is closing it up. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comments and cooperation tonight. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here tonight. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you may submit additional written comments until May 12, 2023. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments can be submitted via the My Enviro portal, via email to me, or via US mail. The hearing is now closed. Thank you again.
All right, thanks, Robin. And just a reminder up on the screen, you just saw that's the ways you can submit comments up until May 12th. That's for accepting comments up till then. And just a reminder that your written comments hold just as much weight as your verbal comments here tonight. So if you want to submit a written comment, you can do that in the chat. You'll also find a direct link you can click on to make your comments through our My Water system. And you have till May 12th to do that. Okay, so contact information, if you have more questions, want to contact somebody, Robin's phone number and emails up on the screen, as well as Joe's as well. You can feel free to reach out to them if you don't want to. I'll actually leave that up there. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Joe. Do you have some closing remarks you'd like to make?
Just briefly, I would just thank everybody again for their participation, comments, and cooperation. We appreciate your interest in this proposed application, and you're taking the time to attend this evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe, and I echo that. Thank you all for being on tonight, spending some part of your evening with us to learn about the project and provide comments to us. Thanks to Robin as well for being here, and to Joe. And again, hopefully, if you have any more questions, you can just send those to Robin. Otherwise, thank you all for your time tonight, and have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.